Of all of the mysteries in One Piece, and trust me, there are several, the D-Clan stand at the top of the list to me as one of the more intriguing. They're labeled as the natural enemy of the gods, and this group of characters always has extremely pivotal roles whenever they appear in the story. I've had an idea about them for a while, and the recent introduction of the rain god Zaza got me connecting certain dots that Oda may not want us to connect just yet. So I decided to do some more digging, and I believe that I have information that could be very valuable to you if you're trying to uncover the roots of the D-Clan. But if you were sent here by the world government, I am but a fool yelling out senseless and baseless theories. Trust me, I am harmless. So without any further ado, let's talk about the D-Clan and their mysterious origins and try to connect some dots. But first, I lied. There is some further ado. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and I would truly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. And I don't know how the hype thing works, but hype the video. Why not? It would mean a bunch to me, a smaller creator who's trying to realize his dream that he's had since a child. So join the Gold Tooth Pirates so that I can afford to actually get a gold tooth. Anyway, back to the video. All right. Now, first things first, we have to undo some government propaganda. Back in the 60s, the FBI targeted several key figures it deemed dangerous under this wait, wrong government, wrong propaganda. All right, let's talk about One Piece. My bad, I got a little confused. You know, I'm passionate about that. But anyway, the D-Clan, like I mentioned earlier, are considered to the world to be the natural enemies of the gods. Now, this is a very dramatic label, but sometimes labels don't really hold too much weight when you realize who it's coming from. Being called the natural enemy of the gods, who in this case would probably be the celestial dragons, is kind of like being called a big fat meanie by a kid that's upset because you didn't let them get their 4th serving of ice cream in the last 15 minutes. Like, hey man, I guess I'm the bad guy here. I'll own that. But I know I'm actually in the right here. But I do think that there is some credence to this title, just not in the way that the Celestial is intended to be. This is a group of people who consider themselves to be gods, but they're actually really demonic at the highest level. And if you're considered their natural enemies, then maybe in truth, you're more like a god yourself, actually, or maybe a demigod. So our natural enemies of the gods are actually probably the closest things to gods that we have in the current blue planet, or at least their descendants. Now, I just gave you 2 things that the D could stand for, demigod and descendant. This video is not going to be about finding out what exactly the D means. I don't think that's important. More so finding out what it could represent. The exact word, I doubt anyone is going to actually get it right, unless it's something really simple like dawn, or like I just said, descendant or domain. But that doesn't matter. We're more so focused on what it represents. So let's get on to the next section and you can understand why I said those words. So the D-Clan members all share something. The D. Duh, yes, but that's not actually what I'm talking about here. This applies to the vast majority. We have a pretty interesting case of too many coincidences to be a coincidence. You see, a very long time ago, I saw this pattern in the names of the D-Clan members, and I couldn't figure out how to really tie it to the grander narrative. But now that we've been introduced seemingly to these godly pillars of the verse, I mean, we heard about them back in Skypiea, but we're getting names and getting a lot more context about stuff now. It's starting to make a little bit more sense. Between the guys that we know, the D-Clan names can all be kind of categorized as their descendants. You got the rain god Zaza, the sun god Nika, the earth god Greenpool, and the forest god Chopper. Now, I believe we have 13 known members of the D-Clan, which the list for that is actually really small when you think about it. It's shorter than the list of Conqueror. I think the Logia list is maybe the smallest, but either way, we got 13 known members. It could be more now. I'm not sure if the list I looked at was updated, but we have all of the surnames covered for sure. So we're going to first look at the forest god lineage. Now, these names are going to primarily be animals. You think of the forest, you think of the different animals that live in the forest. The monkey clan and the jaguar clan. Those are the only 2 surnames we have that can fit that line as it stands. But then you got the rain god lineage. We have the water family, which is Law's clan, and the cloud families, which was Clover's. Now let's take a look at the earth god lineage. Rocks, gold for Goldie Roger, and even though Nefertiti wasn't an original D-Clan member, it still fits. Well, maybe she was. That situation was communicated a little funny. Maybe it was just an initial they were hiding. But either way, Nefertiti is a flower which still fits in the earth god domain. I think that these names are some of the more pure D-clan descendants, but then we got a couple of other names that could be mixtures, if that makes sense. So you've got Portgas and you've got Marshall. So the first part of their names is kind of what we're paying attention here, which is a port, which is where water meets earth probably. You can say that they could be a descendant of people from the rain god and the earth god lineage. And the same goes for marshes. Marshes are like swampy, muddy water areas, you understand, which is another mixture between those two different lineages. Now, I know that you're in the midst of typing an extremely passionate comment about the one exception to this rule, and that is Davy D. Jones. I think there's a reason why this is the case. What if Davy really was not a true member of the D clan? I believe that when we look at all of the guys in this story that have been introduced, the Davy clan people seem to be the most out there. Who else acts like that? And with him being the king of the world, or at least in the eyes of some, I can see him rising to the top and kind of portray himself to be a false god and getting that D-clan initiative for his descendants as well, when he really wasn't a natural member of the original core pillars of the world, the four gods, the rain god, the earth god, the forest god, and the sun god. Because if you look at the way that they act, Davy and his descendants are the only members who have a desire to really just sit at the top of the world and take over. Whether that's a desire to get something that they're owed back to them, or it's just greed that's naturally in their bloodline, it's very different from the rest of the D-clan. So that lineage not fitting this pattern doesn't necessarily hurt the argument. It kind of adds to it to a certain extent. But there is one god who doesn't seem to have any descendants amongst those I listed earlier, and that is the sun god Nika. To me, this is more than likely because all things live under the domain of the sun, meaning that there's no real reason to specify yourself as a descendant of his. The gods themselves are probably born of the sun god, or perhaps the sun god's direct descendants were all erased by Emu. Perhaps Joy Boy was the last one. There's so many more questions that obviously need to be answered, but I think that this is a really good place to start if we're going to try to figure out what exactly the D-clan means. And that's why I can't wait for these Void Century flashbacks, because if we're being honest, I kind of want to make a video about the most anticipated flashbacks. Matter of fact, that's probably going to be my next video if I don't do some chapter stuff, depending on what goes on in the next chapter. But anyway, now paying attention to this makes me want to go look at a lot of the characters that aren't confirmed to be D-clan members and kind of see what their last name could fit in regards to this naming scheme. And of course, the most obvious person for this, to me at least, is Kozuki Oden. He died with a smile on his face. He lived his life in a way that just screams D-clan to me, but he doesn't have the initial. Now, that could probably be because of how closed off Wano was to the rest of the world. Maybe they just didn't get that message to start putting the D in their name. But with his name, the Kozuki name meaning shining moon, it kind of has me thinking that that clan could have been a direct descendant of the sun god. And yes, I didn't say moon god because there hasn't been a named moon god out of those four pillars we kind of got in Skypiea. But we know that the moon's light is a reflection of the sun. So the moon people being a descendant of the sun god isn't really far-fetched. The same could be for the Lunarians, and maybe that's why Emu kind of wiped them off the face of the map, because they were the closest descendants to the sun god. I don't know. We can look at Amazon Lily, all of those names being flowers. It raises so many more questions. It makes me pay attention to this story in a different way than I have so far. But I believe that's all I got. So this might be a shorter video. I think it's going to cross the 10-minute mark, but that might be it. I got some new stuff coming soon. Like, I just literally thought about that idea for the most anticipated flashbacks, and I might get to writing that one today, try to have that one out in a couple of days. I'm not making no promises though. Don't quote me. I'm always appreciative. I really enjoy the fact that y'all are tapping in and we're growing. We're trying to keep growing. And I want y'all to come along with me on this journey. I'm telling y'all, in a couple of years, they're going to be like, hey, it's like buying stocks. That boy Crow, I was on him first. And shout out to everybody that's been coming back to the videos, like checking in, making sure they watching them, really talking in the comments. I appreciate y'all more than you'll ever know. I promise you. A lot of y'all we was on back in the OPU days. So the fact that some of y'all transitioned over to my solo joint, I really appreciate that, man. I got major love for y'all. And I want y'all, for anything, I want to make y'all proud for sure. So like and subscribe. That's all I got. Peace out.